Hey guys, Bill Egan with Juan Bass. We're here on Championship Wednesday, beautiful Catherine's Landing, Lake Mojave. We're going to crown a brand new champion, 2024 Juan Bass champion. Will it be Spencer Sheffield? Will it be Kyle Grover? Josh Bertrand? Will it be somebody we don't even expect?
2090, total of 64-74. Bryant Smith is your U.S. Open champion!
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Fisherman's Warehouse channel. Today, I'm joined by Bryant Smith, the 2024 U.S. Open champion. Great to have you here, Bryant.
Dude, I appreciate it. You can say that as many times as you want. That does not get old.
We'll say it a couple more times for sure today. But yeah, so if you guys didn't know, he won the U.S. Open this year. Absolutely amazing feat. And I couldn't think of another angler that I figured was probably going to win it within the next couple of years other than you. I mean, I know you've been chomping at it the last couple of years, so I'm sure that felt good to knock that one off finally.
For sure.
But the U.S. Open, it's a very prestigious event. It's one of the biggest events here on the West Coast, and it kind of rivals with the Classic as far as a West Coast event for us. So really big accomplishment for Bryant. And anyways, we're going to jump into how he caught him that week, and just all the other things that kind of went into him winning the U.S. Open this year. So let's get after it. All right, Bryant. So I just want you to kind of take us through the top, wherever you want to start at. If you want to start in prep before you even left your house, or first day on the water, wherever you want to go with this.
You know, this tournament, I've been thinking about it ever since last year. You know, I had a really good event there last year. I think I ended up in third. And my mind just got fixated on that tournament because it was something I knew I could win, right? It was in my wheelhouse. It was smallmouth fishing. Using my Lowrance active target, something I put a lot of time into. So I just kind of fixated on this tournament for almost the whole year. You know, I'm fishing the Elite Series in between them, but I was like, man, I want this trophy. And it's a trophy that, you know, growing up, you see the guys that have won it. You see the history behind it. And I've always wanted to win.
So many legends have won this thing.
Yeah. I mean, you look at that trophy and all the names on it, it's just like, wow, that is the one I want, especially growing up here on the West Coast. So, you know, my practice, it pretty much started after that tournament, but I knew going into it, you know, you got to focus on the smallmouth there.
100%.
Those are the ones that kind of last you throughout the tournament. There's guys that will have a big largemouth bag here and there, and I practiced for that a little bit. Just, you know,
I saw some pictures.
Yeah, just some backup stuff. But
to throw everybody off a little bit, right?
Yeah. But I knew that I needed smallmouth to kind of win this tournament. So that's where my focus was. And you know, going into practice, it wasn't any different than I did last year. You know, I just looked for the biggest population of fish, you know, where they were depth range wise, what they were holding on, were they on points, were they in washes, were they on flats, stuff like that. And just kind of dialed into where their location was. And it was actually pretty cool because last year, you know, I would drop a dot on every single fish I caught. And I went back to some of those places and they were on the same spots.
So I complete opposite experience. So good for you.
Yeah, it was nice just because I had a starting point. But,
that's awesome.
You know, it's smallmouth fishing, so it's I keep it really, really simple. This is my guy when I'm smallmouth fishing. Strike King half shell on a drop shot. You know, it's a super, super kind of subtle bait. It's something that I know if you take a look at it, especially with how pressured those fish get, you need something that's not really in their face. And if you look at a green pumpkin half shell, it's just you drop it in front of them because you see them out there on active target, right? You throw it at them, and it's not something they get scared of.
Like a French fry.
For sure.
Yeah,
it's like,
small. Yeah.
I mean, I can't drive past a McDonald's without grabbing some French fries. So
exactly.
It's something just kind of non-intrusive. And, you know, I threw the same thing last year, and it worked out the same way to where it was just throw it in front of as many fish that I could. And that was my whole deal for this whole tournament was find the biggest population of fish, find out where they are, depth range, which happened to be anywhere from 10 to 20 foot of water, and then just find as many targets, which bass are my targets, find as many targets and throw that little worm that little guy in front of as many as I possibly could. It sounds
It's a
simple.
numbers game.
It is.
basically.
It is.
Yeah.
It was just, shots on goal. That's all it is. If I can get enough shots on goal, I know I'm going to convert one. One's going to bite. So I just did that. That was really it. Now, we had a little bit different scenario this year because last year was flat calm all 3 days. So I didn't really have to pick up any moving baits. But we had a couple of days where it blew in the afternoon in practice. And that was where I kind of dialed in a moving bait bite, which, depending on the depth range, we went with 6XD, 5XD. These are my two go-tos. In the desert, when the wind blows, you can get away with a moving bait. And those two showed me when it's a little harder to kind of pan around with forward facing, I could just throw a moving bait and really kind of still find more places that had a group of fish. And then, when the wind really started blowing, when it really started ripping, they got up really, really shallow. And we could throw a moving bait like a spinner bait. This is a Strike King burner. They make a lot of great spinner baits, but something I could just chuck and wind down those windy banks. And again, it was just all about finding as many places with a dense population of fish that I could find. And then just rotating. I mean, the tournament, same deal. I kept it simple. I just rotated through those areas over and over and over again and just tried to pick off one here, one there, and just kind of built my bag up throughout the day.
That's awesome. And it seemed like, from what I heard, there were a lot of guys who were either catching a really small quantity of quality fish, or there were a lot of guys who were also just burning through numbers, catching 5+ limits a day, and culling 18-pound limits out of their boat. Which side of the spectrum were you on, or were you somewhere in the middle maybe?
Yeah, I was more in the middle. And the interesting thing about that, like when you get a tournament on it and the fish get pressured, guys practicing 4 or 5 days out there, everybody's sticking their fish first day, everybody's sticking their fish the second day, and then the tournament comes along and now we're sticking them all and bringing them all back to weigh-in. Things changed throughout the tournament. So the first day I did catch quite a few fish. I probably caught 20, 25 fish.
Nice.
I had most of my weight early, which was nice. I got to kind of sample a few other areas, but I kind of got to expand. I didn't touch one of my better areas that I knew I had. So having that, I mean, dude,
it's hard to do. I know.
It is.
I could probably catch a 6.
For sure. And I'm like, man, a 5-pounder would be really cool right now, and I know they're over there.
Yeah.
But if I'm only culling a pound for a 5-pounder, where that 5-pounder is going to go to my bottom line tomorrow if I catch it. So kind of playing the long game with that was really important to me. But yeah, getting back to your question, it kind of trickled off, and I went from catching a lot of fish. Second day, I still saw a lot of fish, but they got a little tougher to bite. And then the third day, I probably only caught 10 fish. So it was a trickle off effect, but we were lucky enough to get the right ones in the boat.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I know it seemed like you had quite a bit of confidence going into this event. Obviously, you fished it last year. You had a great finish last year. And this year, obviously, you're hungry to take that win. And I know you kind of shared a special story about your son. And I figured you should reiterate that, because that was one of those cool moments where it seems like whenever you win an event of this caliber, there's always something that happens in the background, and you get to look back and be like, oh my, it was like it was written to be before it even happened. Yeah. So anyways, take it away.
Yeah, that was cool. When I've been fortunate enough to win, quite a few, not quite a few, but
quite a few. You don't have to be humble about it. You've won your fair share.
Yeah, so. A handful of really big tournaments out here on the West, and you kind of get little glimpses of, man, this is weird how that worked out. Yep. It might be happening this week. But yeah, what you were talking about, I was, I think it was the first day of practice or second day of practice. I get a call from my wife, and my son's just starting to talk. He's been talking for 3 or 4 months, and he's starting to put, kind of phrases together. And she said, "You're never going to believe what he said." I'm like, oh boy, I hope he's not just running around the house swearing or whatever whatever he could pick up. But she said, he's saying "Dada win," and I'm like, that's when it was like, oh boy. Now my son, now my son's putting the pressure on me. Jeez. So, but that was so special, man. That was so cool. And to have it work out to where, I got to bring the trophy home for them, and I got to.
You're right.
Yeah, I got to go home, give him a hug, and say, "Dad, I won."
Yeah.
So that was super.
Fortune telling might be in his future.
Hey,
something like that.
Hey, as long as he keeps saying, "Dad, I win," I'm in.
Hey, that's a great way to do it. Yeah. But anyways, next up, I think we're going to be having a video diving a little bit more in depth on the real specifics on kind of how you caught your fish. Maybe give away a couple key details. So if you guys want to tune into that episode, I think that thing's going to be killer. You guys might learn a little bit about catching some Lake Mojave smallmouth, and I'm sure smallmouth and other fish all around the country, because if you guys didn't know, Bryant Smith also fishes the Elite Series nationwide and has killed it on that for the past 2 years, and he's going into his 3rd year this year.
Yeah.
So I am once again joined by Bryant Smith, our Juan Bass U.S. Open champion for 2024, and we've got a bit of a breakdown on how he caught him, kind of dive into the nitty-gritty, and what set him apart from people like me who finished in 24th and the whole rest of the field that he just smoked. So anyways, the floor is yours, and let's see how we caught him.
All right. So super, super simple. I'm the guy that keeps everything simple. I don't have a lot of secrets, a lot of stuff like that.
You just outfish everybody.
I try. That's the goal, right? Like, we just want to be. My secret has always been efficiency, and efficiency is absolutely everything in bass fishing. If I can make 10 more casts than the guy next to me, then I feel like I got 10 more chances to catch a fish. So
perfect.
The other thing is, when I'm out there with forward-facing sonar, we're fishing for smallmouth, we're in the desert, being more efficient than the next guy, which in my mind, it's not making more casts, it's making more casts at fish. So perfect. I try to go as fast as I possibly can to where I still can see what's going on. I don't want to blow past a bunch of fish just because I got to go fast.
Yep.
But seeing those fish, recognizing them, knowing what is what on your screen. So Lowrance, it's pretty cool, because over the past couple of years, I've really gotten to understand what is a bass, what is a carp, what is a striper, what are all these fish, what do they look like on my screen. So my efficiency comes from just being able to recognize what a fish is. But once we see the bass, right, we're out there, we're smallmouth fishing, we see the bass, what am I going to throw at them? 90% of the time, it's a drop shot. Drop shot, all it is, we got a little size 4. This is a Gamakatsu G Finesse split shot drop shot hook. And then, anywhere, I don't really measure my leaders. I just kind of eyeball it. But you're going to have a leader anywhere from 12 to 18 inches below. And you got a little drop shot weight. This is a tungsten one. This is a 1/2 ounce. When it got windy, I had to go to a 1/2 ounce. But, anywhere from a 1/4 to a 1/2 ounce is what I usually throw. And then this is a little nugget right here. Try to always find a black one. Fishing on the St. Lawrence the past couple of years, those fish have gotten really, really smart. And I actually picked this up there in New York, and now I use it all the way around the country. They will eat your weight.
Oh, I've seen it.
Yeah.
You see it happen on live. They come up and you're like, I think it just ate it.
Yeah, It is the most frustrating thing in the world when they grab your weight. You'll literally, just like you said, you'll be looking at your active target, and it'll fall, and then you'll see the fish come up, and your bait's still above his head, and you're like, he has my weight. Like, what do I do? So what I do to kind of combat that, I won't say it doesn't happen, but I use a black weight. It just takes a little bit of the shine away. You don't have that.
Looks less like a silver bait fish.
Exactly. They don't key in on it as much as they, it kind of doles out. So they can key in on my bait more than they key in on your weight. But that's something I've been doing for a few years, and I have noticed a huge difference in that. I get a lot less weight bites these days, which is nice. And then the size 4, we were just talking before this, like he said, that's a really, really small hook. And it is a very, very small hook. And when you look at a drop shot setup, especially in clear water, it's all about being as natural as possible. So the smaller I can get anything, that's why 6-pound test. This is Cigar Tatsu, 6-pound test, super small line, and then a super small hook. It's going to be a little more natural. So I feel like I'm going to get an extra few bites throughout the day. And if the bite's tough, if we're only getting 6-7 bites a day, if I can get 8 or 9,
Going back to your efficiency.
Yes,
Yep.
that's 2 more bites that I can hopefully get in the boat, and maybe we win a cool big trophy like that. So I'm always trying to maximize my bites. And then the half shell, we talked about it in the video earlier, but it's just so not in their face. Being that we have forward-facing sonar now, we don't have to attract a fish because we're throwing right on their head, right?
Yep.
So now we have to take away the attraction part, and now we just have to worry about getting them to bite. And that is where I think this thing does the best out of any drop shot bait that I've ever thrown, is that it is so small and finessey that once it lands on their head, first of all, it doesn't spook them off. It's not a 6-inch worm, 8-inch worm, whatever. It's so small, it lands on their head, they don't swim off, and they actually take a look at it. And then again, we're in clear water, so the smaller the better. Smaller everything is always going to get you more bites, especially in that super clear water, those super pressured fish. But that's my drop shot setup. Nothing crazy. The one other thing I will say about that size 4 is if you start getting into a bigger hook, I feel like it doesn't grab the hard part of their mouth as much. When you get this really small hook, if you notice, like you look at the top of a smallmouth's mouth, it's got that like top jawbone over the top. And this thing, man, when it gets in there, you probably can't see this on the camera, but it really digs in behind that part. So I've noticed over the years, I played with a ton of different setups, a ton of different hooks, rods, everything like that. The smaller hook, I really do feel like I'm reaching for my pliers more often with that smaller hook than I am with, say, a size 2 or a size 1. So that's the way I like to do it. But yeah, just efficiency. That's the big thing there with that drop shot setup.
All right, guys. So we just got our full rundown of his drop shot setup, which was I'd say your main player, obviously.
Yep.
And then now we're kind of going to dive into your reaction baits, which a little more fun, for everybody. Sure. And obviously still a real key for you when that wind started to blow and we got a little bit more chop on the water, so you could kind of get away with something moving.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the desert, so it's gonna blow. There's it's not if, it's when. And you have to have that backup plan, because you can't always just pan around and look for them on forward facing. Sometimes you do have to just go fish for them. And I knew that I would need a backup plan looking at the weather. I knew we were going to get some wind on the third day. So I wanted to have something that I can do to where I can cover that water effectively, have some confidence in it. And, if it did get a little more difficult to look at them on forward facing, I had that backup plan.
Perfect.
My backup plan, the desert, it doesn't really remind you of some place that you should crank.
That's very true. I've never looked at something and been like, dude, I got to throw a crank down.
Yeah,
You're
it's
just kind of like,
I need
mud.
I need to drop shot. I need to do, I need to finesse it. But a crankbait in the desert, guys catch them really, really well on that. And
a lot of events won on cranks.
For sure. That whole Colorado River, Meade, Mojave, and Havasu. And, cranking in clear water, I take it a little bit differently. And especially when I'm cranking for smallmouth. So these are the two that I picked. Strike King 6XD, this one, 5XD, this one. 6XD, anywhere from 15 to 18, and then the 5XD is kind of that 12 to 15 foot range, maybe a little bit deeper on 10-pound tests. But so I'm always going to pick the bait. Now, this is where it's a little bit different. I'm always going to pick the bait. When I'm smallmouth fishing, I don't really like to hit the bottom with it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't really like to hit the bottom with it. It's something I picked up at St. Clair last year, where you just kind of free reel a crankbait, and you don't have to worry about snagging it. You don't have to worry about anything. The only thing you got to worry about is that smallmouth chasing it down. So that was one of my backup plans, was just free reeling a 5XD and a 6XD, depending on how deep we were. That was when I was fishing a little bit deeper, and it's so odd, because everything you read in fishing magazines, you watch on TV, it's always, you got to be digging that bill into the ground. You got to
eat it because it reacts differently when it hits a stump or whatever.
But that's the cool thing about smallmouth, is they like to chase things down, especially when the conditions are windy, or you get some clouds, whatever it may be. So I ended up just freereeling a crankbait. Like I would just burn it, burn, stop, burn, stop, burn, stop, and they would just grab it. They would go and chase it down. I don't know how else they played it. Yeah. So it was a way that I could go get an extra few bites when it was windy. But yeah, if you're ever in that clear water situation, and this is my favorite color, very natural, green gizzard shad. If you're ever in that clear water situation, don't be afraid to just grab a crankbait, especially when smallmouth are involved. Don't be afraid to grab a crankbait that just kind of gets 5 foot off the bottom, 3 to 5 foot off the bottom. That's why I had 2. And just chuck and wind it and let those fish kind of chase it down. It's an awesome bite because
I'm sure it's a lot more fun than watching them eat a drop shot.
Yeah, and they don't miss. That is the coolest thing because
great.
they have that target. It's not them trying to track something down in the mud or in the rocks.
That's a great point.
It is just right in front of them, and they hammer it. Yeah. So that was my backup plan when the wind kind of blew a little bit. One of my backup plans. We'll get into my other one in a little bit, but this was one of my big backup plans. Landed a few key fish. Found me a lot of fish in practice that I ended up getting to catch. That I ended up catching on that half shell. So really cool deal.
Nice. And so with that crankbait, I know one thing, especially with smallmouth, is you run into a lot of lost fish, or you can run into a lot of lost fish. Obviously, if you're trying to win a U.S. Open, you can't have that.
Yep.
So I got to ask you, are you changing your treble hooks out? Is that something that you like to do? Is there a reason? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Where are we going?
It's funny too because I am like the king of change your hooks, always change your hooks. The Strike King hooks that actually come on these baits, they're really pretty good hooks. The only problem I would say is if you are cranking a lot and you're cranking fast, they will dull out. So, after that, I'll go grab after they dull out, I'll go grab a, high quality, whatever it is, Gamakatsu, and just, swap it out. But, I do change them, but once they dull out, they're really not that bad a hook.
Throw it fresh out of the package.
I do.
And then, if it stops sticking you in the finger when you're taking a piece of grass off it or something, then, better change those things out.
Yeah, and the one other thing, sorry to cut you off, but the other thing I will say is I do change to an EWG when the water's really, really warm. So, usually I don't change them out if it's cold. But if it is warm, I will go to that EWG style hook.
Interesting. Okay.
When the water's a little warm, their mouths are a little warmer. I think that bend of that hook holds onto the fish a little better.
90 degrees.
Yeah.
Locks them in.
Yeah, but cold water, these are fine. But warmer water, I definitely like to change out to an EWG.
Great. That sounds awesome. All right, and we got one more, right?
Yeah, we got one more.
All right.
We got one more. Yeah. This was the one we actually did weigh a few fish on it the final day when it got blowing pretty good. It got a little rowdy out there.
Yeah.
It got a little rowdy out there. Yeah. If you've never fished the desert, man, you get into those big basins on Mead or Havasu or Mojave, and then that wind will just blow straight across it. You'll see it coming. You'll be like, oh, well, this is going to suck for the next however long it blows. So I wanted to have one more backup plan. We start out with a drop shot when it's flat calm in the depth range I want. And we got this we got the 6XD and the 5XD if I want to target those fish a little bit deeper. But when that wind starts to blow, I did notice that a few fish tended to kind of really move up shallow, like, 10 foot or less. And that was when I grabbed a spinnerbait. This is a Strike King burner. It's my favorite smallmouth spinnerbait just because you can reel it so fast and keep it in the water. But there's a lot of great spinnerbaits out there that you want something with smaller blades just to keep it down in the water. Because when when I'm smallmouth fishing, everything is fast. Everything, reeling the 6XD, fast. Reeling a spinnerbait, it's fast. So you need something with smaller blades that you can keep in the water. You don't want it blowing out on the surface, and it just looks off. So a burner spinnerbait is the one I go with, but it was just something that I can fish really effectively in that, from the bank to 10 foot of water. Perfect. We picked up a few fish on it the final day. I think I ended up weighing one on it. I think my co-angler actually. That's the cool thing about the U.S. Open is the co-anglers can help you out, and he did. He caught us a 4.5 pounder on that final day on a spinnerbait, just burning it. So once that wind picked up, I would go to that spinnerbait. I would kind of work in between drop shot, spinnerbait. He was throwing a spinnerbait the whole time.
Nice.
Ended up weighing me a huge fish on it, so it was awesome. But yeah, that's kind of one of my go-tos, smallmouth fishing, just because they're such sight feeders. So all you got to do is get it around them and let them do the rest.
Yep.
That's the best part.
Yeah,
You know?
and it really doesn't seem like you probably have to make any tweaks to that. I mean,
Trailer hook.
And that's it.
Yep, that's
Perfect.
it. I don't put a trailer on it. Keep it very simple. 15 to 17 pound test fluoro, and just huck it around and reel it in really fast.
And eventually one of them's gonna
they just
smoke it.
Yep, come up and smoke. Yeah,
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, if you guys are feeling anything like I am, I feel like I'm much more prepared for the U.S. Open again next year. So I know, Bryant, you'll probably be back again, right? Defending your title. But hopefully with this, I'll have a little bit better finish myself. And I'm sure everybody out here watching, even if they're not coming to the U.S. Open, hopefully you guys learned something more about smallmouth fishing and just a little bit more about how Bryant breaks down these bodies of water and continues to just have an awesome career fishing. So anyways, all this gear found here in this video today will be linked down below. You can find it all at Fisherman's Warehouse online or at any of our 4 retail locations. So make sure you guys stop by, give us a holler, and we'll get you geared up for your next fishing adventure. For those who don't know of you or, who are maybe not as familiar with you, give us a little bit of a breakdown about who you are. I know you fish the Elite Series now. Obviously, you've won a ton of trophies. So maybe take us back to the early days, because you are a West Coast guy. And, now you've made it to the national stage and you continue to come back and kick everybody's butt here. And then also, do pretty well on the Elite Series. So let's get a little bit of breakdown.
Cool. Yeah. I grew up here in California, in Northern California. I fell in love with bass fishing when I was probably 7 or 8. My family bought a boat when I was 10, and we just I just like the love, the passion for it just grew and grew and grew. And then I noticed that you could fish tournaments. And then that was when it was all over.
Slippery slope.
Oh, yeah. We kind of nurtured that love and that passion a little bit through that time from like 7 to 10. But then after that, I found out that you could tournament fish. And I was like, oh, that's what I'm into. That was cool. That kind of you could scratch the competitive itch and you could still do something you love. Yeah. And I, from that point on, it was just like, I'm totally addicted to this tournament fishing. So started fishing team tournaments when I was like 15, 16.
Nice.
With my dad, one of my best friends, and then had a little bit of success there. We moved up to the co-angler side, did that for a year.
Nice. Great way to learn.
It is a great way to learn, especially, shared weight, non-shared weight, didn't really matter. I jumped into them all and I loved every second. You just get so fishing with different people. You see how different people approach everything. And I learned a ton from that. And then after that, I figured I was ready to move up to the front. And I wasn't, but, I had the school of hard knocks, fishing against some of the best in the West Coast. But it really did teach me a lot. And it taught me that I really need to work on my game over the next 3 or 4 years. So did that for a while. And then we started having some success, won some tournaments. And then I went and took my shot at the national stage. Fished the NPFL for a few years. Really enjoyed fishing with those guys. Learned a lot about fishing at a national level, traveling around the country, all that good stuff. And then in 2022, I was lucky enough to qualify for the Bassmaster Elite Series through the Bassmaster Opens, and that was the dream come true. Yep. That was the one that I've always wanted to fish on the Elite Series. I've always wanted to say I was a professional fisherman. I really didn't think I was until I made it there.
Yep.
So checked off a lot of boxes on the life goal list doing that. Nice. And but I always took the stair step approach. Similar to how you did it. Just start at one level, start doing okay, time to move up to the next one, figure my way out through that level, move up to the next one. Just kind of, it wasn't a fast way, but it was, it was the way
smart way.
Yeah, and it was the way I got there. It worked for me, so pretty cool.
Yeah, and now, of course, you've fished the Elite Series for 2 years now. You've had some great success there. You've, set the smallmouth record, and and then you come back and you win a U.S. Open. One of the, I'm sure, your lifelong dream, obviously.
Yep.
So after all this, it seems like you've kind of ticked a lot of boxes and a lot more than the average fisherman. So where do you set yourself up to go next, and kind of what's in the plan? What's the next trophy in your sights?
Yeah. That, this one was a huge one for me. The U.S. Open, just with all that history behind it, all the guys that have won it, the names on that trophy, just it's pretty surreal that I'm going to be one of those names on there. But being a competitor, like we just talked about, I want to win it again.
Yeah, nothing satisfying.
No, you want to just keep winning them, and that feeling of that week where it all lines up, that is the best feeling in the world. But I definitely want to win a blue trophy. I want to win an Elite Series event. That one's definitely the next on the goal list for me, is win an Elite Series event. And I couldn't tell you when it'll happen, if it'll happen, but I know that's definitely one of them. And then Angler of the Year, if that happens one year, that would be amazing. And Bassmaster Classic, that is the pinnacle there. But yeah, blue trophy, that one's, I think it's attainable, and I think that's something that, not that I wasn't trying to win one, but that now that we have the U.S. Open kind of in our pocket, now I can really focus on that Elite Series win.
Nice. And I'd say, based on your track record out here, everything you've done on the West Coast, I'd say the blue trophy is probably not too far away. And
I hope you're right.
Hopefully the AOI trophy and a classic trophy, because that'd be pretty sweet to get you back in here and have that thing sitting on the table.
That
too.
would be awesome.
Anyways, I know, I believe you started guiding, right, here on the West Coast. So, just let people know how they can get in touch with you, and even if they're not looking for a guide trip, just how they can kind of follow along with your journey, because I know there's a lot of big things in your future, and I'm sure there's a lot of people watching who want to keep up with everything that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I am guiding. I just started that back up. Around here in Northern California, we're doing Folsom, Berryessa, Oroville, and Clear Lake. Staying around home. I used to guide kind of all over the place, and that just really took me in a lot of different directions. But now I could really focus on, a core group of lakes, focus on the quality of the guide service. So yeah, we're doing that. If you want to get in touch, BryantSmithFishing@gmail.com. That's the way, that's the easiest way to contact me for a guide trip. And then my social media, we've really ramped that up over the past year, being a lot more consistent, telling the story. I get to live the dream. So, I love to share that with everybody. And it's all Bryant Smith Fishing on Facebook, Instagram, and
Perfect. Well, you guys, if you guys are interested in following along with Bryant, make sure you find him at one of those places. And of course, from all of us here at Fisherman's Warehouse, we wish you luck in the future. We know you'll be back with some other trophy, or maybe just another U.S. Open one. So be sure to follow along. I know everybody watching us see a lot of good things for Bryant in the future. So thanks for having us.
Absolutely, I appreciate it, Luke.